Hello, this video is not sponsored. I bought this roughly 1/300th scale Battleship Yamato, not Space Battleship Yamato, just regular Battleship Yamato from World War II. From Misini is the brand, and this is, according to them, an original design that was made by or for them. And I got it off of their own website for $80 US, although the retail price there is listed at $110. This has 2,569 pieces, and it is approximately 79 centimeters long, or around 31 inches. So there's what it looks like compared to an average random brick-built minifigure. I think it's safe to say that this is very satisfyingly large, and it's nice that it is at the same scale as a number of other large ships from other brands that have done, brick-based construction historical models. There were no missing pieces and the parts went together well, but I did notice a fair bit of inconsistency of color throughout this. And you'll see that most strongly in the deck, what's representing wooden decking here, where you can see some slightly different shades in some parts. And that seems to be the main trade-off that you get here for getting such a large thing with so many pieces for such a low cost. But again, everything went together. It's just that color matching that is definitely not perfect if you're looking for perfection. The bow section of the ship, mostly beneath the waterline, is primarily made of one specialized part that they came up with to try to match the correct shape as reasonably as possible. There's one additional piece right here that gets added into it, but most of what you see here is just one single mold, and they did that to try to get the accuracy in there. There's always a debate, and I find it to be an interesting one between, using just the most basic pieces, the most recognizable and reusable parts, and coming up with a very blocky and sketchy looking result that kind of resembles the right shape, or just spending a ton of extra money and time and development effort to come up with a specialized part or two to really dramatically improve the accuracy. There are 4 props on the back of this, and they're actually all linked together with gears, and that's because this actually has wheels underneath. You see it's a little bit flimsy right now, but there are wheels underneath the hull. And those are geared up so that if I roll this along, it's rotating all the propellers, which I feel is a completely unnecessary little play feature because this is very much a display model. Here's a quick look at the very minimal stand that just does not waste many pieces, but it's completely effective. I'll put the ship back on this, but this is a good opportunity to show you what the stickers are like. Because yes, all of the decorations that you see on this are done with stickers, not with print. So that's another place where there's a compromise in order to keep the price low. But they are not your typical type of stickers that you might be used to in the brick-built construction world. These are dual transfer. I don't know the proper term for them, but you peel the sticker off. It looks like it's clear backed. You apply it and then you peel a second layer off. There's actually a backing, which stays behind on the sticker sheet. And then there's like a fronting. It's an additional backing that's on the top, and you peel that off, leaving effectively just a decal-like surface. So you don't have the large border and barrier around the edge like you usually see. This looks much more like just a water slide decal, and all of them are done that way throughout this entire kit, with a number of them crossing multiple bricks like this. The most notable one is this back here for the aft deck. That's all applied as one single design at one time. It's actually not hard to do at all. I did it live on Twitch while I was sick with all kinds of head symptoms and things. I just applied a little bit of water to the surface and to the underside, the sticky side, just to reduce the adhesiveness so that I could place it where I want. And if it didn't go exactly where I wanted, I could just lift it, shift it a little bit, get everything lined up. Absolutely no stress involved with that. But I do know that a lot of people have a lot of stress when it comes to dealing with stickers. It's just not something that has been a major issue for me. And I'll always call out what the sticker experience is like for the sake of other folks who might not have the same type of experience that I do. Here's another sticker that goes across multiple pieces here. And then there are some that just go across single pieces as well. The top of the smokestack, for example, has one sticker going across 4 parts. And I know that the biggest objective negative of that is that it reduces the ability to safely take the set back apart. If that's something that you're going to be doing a lot, I think a lot of people don't take their sets back apart part. But if you do, you can still take this apart, but you are going to have to just, either take these off together like we used to do in the leading brand world for decades and decades, or just take a craft knife and just cut through the seams and then keep the parts together that belong together. Again, compromises, I want to let you know about it. Not big deals to me, especially given the price here, but definitely things that I need you to know about so that you're not surprised. Some small stickers are used down in here as well. And then here's where we really get into the specialized parts. So all of these gun emplacements, the lighter, these are supposed to represent the 25 millimeter gun turrets, are done with a specialized part that comes off of a plastic sprue with touch gates. So for folks familiar with like snap built plastic model kits, you just push these off. Like they all come together and you just push them off and then you apply them. So they've got specialized designs in there. Unfortunately, they're not quite correct because they should be triple barrel for this specific situation here. The dual, you actually have to put all these antennas together to represent the dual 127 millimeter heavy anti-aircraft turrets in there. And then you've got some of the smaller emplacements that are just represented by small wheels just because of the small size there. And these are the 155 millimeter secondary armaments. And these are the ridiculous 460 millimeter triples. You can articulate each of these individually, just like on the real thing. And then the turrets do rotate around as well. The only ones that don't work quite so well are these in here, where they just don't have the room to go through their full intended range of motion. Like this one can go a good distance, but this one over here, yeah, this one's pretty good, but you can see some of them just clash a little bit as far as how far they can go if you want to pose them like that. Most people are just going to put them into a single pose because, again, this is very much a dust collector sort of thing, and I think that's okay. This was also a sticker, if I recall correctly, that goes across multiple pieces there on the front of the, is this where the main bridge, because I think fire control is up here. I think main bridge is here, if I'm not mistaken on that. I'm going to talk about the rigging for a minute, because you can see all these strings here. They do include all of those strings as just raw strings. Some of them do double back, like this one right here, to represent all the antennas. Well, not all of the antennas, but a handful of the antennas that are the antenna runs that are particularly noticeable on the ship. And here I actually had this one. It looks like it's crossing when you see it from the side, but from the top, it's not actually crossing. There's an end right there. They've got a nice system for putting this together that did not require any tying. I hate, personally, some people dislike stickers. I dislike tying little strings, especially when they don't give you enough space to do it right. This did not require any tying because they just have you put the string through parts and then just press them together. So you fit regular plastic pieces together and they hold the string bits in there at different ways and in different places. And it actually works out quite well. At the end, you have extra string to spare and you just trim it off however much you feel comfortable doing. I left a little bit to spare on mine just because, if I were to take it apart and want to put it back together, I want to have a little bit of extra in there. But yeah, it's nice to get some rigging without having to do any actual tying whatsoever, especially tiny little string, tiny little thread, and very, very small ends that don't have a whole lot of room to work. Back here, a couple more specialized parts with these planes, which really aren't the right shape at all. They should be biplanes. This ship just carried a couple of biplanes. There were also float planes, and this isn't that style at all. For they're on the catapults back here. Might have been nice to have a little bit more detail for the catapult management. I don't know the exact name of it. The crane back here, which is actually a pretty significant thing, but yeah, probably could have had a little bit more detail there. But once again, using stickers on top, and this goes across multiple pieces, but they are the stickers that are like decals. So it's not a continuous sheet of vinyl that goes all the way back there. It ends at every single spot. The one bad thing about that style is that sometimes it doesn't want to pull up all the little individual bits of detail when you're pulling up that secondary backing. I guess pulling it up, sometimes you'll try to leave it behind, so then you have to flatten it back out and try again. Just peel it carefully apart. Just, you have to have some patience. You have to recognize that there are some relatively, by, I guess, brick building standards, advanced techniques. By plastic modeler standards, they're not advanced at all, but you just have to have a little bit more care than you would for a typical leading brand set build. That said, all of the brick-based stuff went together just fine. The only issues that I personally had with this, and part of it was, again, because I was rather sick at the time, was just seeing the edges of the dark red pieces when putting the main hull together. First, just in the instructions, it was a little bit difficult to see just because of the color itself. And the instructions are also a little bit small for, at least for how my eyes were working at that time. And I haven't seen online instructions for this just yet. So as you can see it yourself, here's just an example. So opening up a page while working early in the hull. Yeah, just sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see. Are those 4 studs or no, it's all 2. I can see those up here, but when you start getting into some plates and things, it gets to be just a little bit more difficult to see the delineations between them. And I think they could have made larger borders around the edges, but ultimately the biggest problem is just that the printing is a little bit on the small side here. And that was to limit the number of pages that were included, because instructions can take up a tremendous amount of weight, and then that makes everything cost more because of shipping. So I think that this was, again, a cost-cutting measure, not just for the company, but for us to get lower retail prices. These are my leftover parts, which do include some extras of the planes, which are 2 parts each. They've got just a single anti-stud on the underside, and then the propeller is its own thing, which you can actually spin up. It actually fits nicely. I believe this is ABS plastic as well. I'm suspicious about these 2 1x2 pieces. I feel like that might have been a mistake of mine, that I should have included them in there at some point. But again, I was very sick. I'm sorry. These pieces are great. I always love to see things like that allow you to add studs to the underside of regular parts at any point, and they do use those in a handful of spots to have nice immediate turnarounds, 180-degree turnarounds of stud placements. And you see just a random hand here. My set may possibly have come with some figures. I cannot necessarily confirm that. If it did come with figures, though, it's possible that 2 of them would have looked something roughly like these. And maybe the other 2 could possibly, hypothetically, have looked something exactly like these. But I don't see any figures advertised for this set anywhere. So yeah, it's all just possibility, you know. So in this video, I did specifically call out a lot of potentially negative points and compromises, and that's because I never want you as a viewer to get all amped up about something that I show in a video and then to go buy it and be disappointed or surprised by anything that's a potential negative on it. I want you to hear all the worst stuff. But for me, this is great. For me personally, subjectively, this is fantastic. $80 US. The closest thing to it would be the same size of Yamato brick-built model with similar level of detail, but with prints, not stickers, from the leading military model maker. That would be in the $220 to $250 US price range. So this is significantly cheaper than that. I cannot reasonably expect this to be at that same level. It's not, but it's not too bad. Again, I enjoyed it. I ultimately, I'm very happy with the end result, especially for the price. I think that the build of it is pretty good. The worst things about the build were mostly because I was not in the best mental or physical state while I was putting it together, but it still came together just fine. And I'm happy to have it. I'm happy to have a 1/300th scale Yamato, because I really wasn't willing or interested in paying over $200 for one of these things to add to my collection of 1/300th scale brick-based ships. For me personally, the biggest letdown is the inaccuracy of the 120, the 12.7 centimeter gun emplacements having only 2 barrels each rather than the 3, which is just a little accuracy thing. It's not that big of a deal. You can't necessarily expect the highest accuracy when you're dealing with this level of scale with brick-based things. However, they did make a specialized mold for this, which I'm assuming is just used for other ships as well. And they also made this here. So, you know, they are clearly willing to put in extra money and time for a little bit of additional accuracy. And I just think that the main leading military model maker would have been a little bit more accurate than that. And that's really nitpicking, and that's perfectly fine. But for the price, again, I'm happy with what I ended up with. Hope that you're happy with what you ended up with in this video as far as information and everything. Let me know if there's anything I could have done better or faster, or I don't know, less of, more of. Just your feedback. Constructive criticism is always appreciated. Criticism for the sake of criticism, nobody cares about, but constructive is always a good thing. So thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.